Welcome to MyShlaich Story Hour Chassidim series. Reb Mendel Futerfas was a Chassid of the Chassidishe Rebbe, and his Lachluchis started under the Chassidishe Rebbe and continued through the Nesias of our Rebbe. He was imprisoned during the time of the Chassidishe Rebbe and was released a few years into our Rebbe's Nesias. At the time Reb Mendel Futerfas was arrested, if you recall, he told the interrogating officers that the reason why he tried leaving Russia was not that he chas v'shalom had anything against Russia, was that he was just looking to be reunited with his Rebbe. And since the Chassidishe Rebbe at the time was living in New York, so he wanted to go to New York. But if the Rebbe was living in Russia, he said, I have no problem staying in Russia. One day, winter of 1950, Shvat of Tavshin Yud, or maybe even in Adar, I don't know how long it takes for news to travel from the United States to Russia, the officers in jail informed Reb Mendel, Hey, prisoner Mendel Futerfas, we have news for you. Your rabbi, the Lubavitch Rebbe, he no longer Lubavitch Rebbe. He's living in America, but he's not living anymore. You understand? On Shabbos of Yud Shvat, you no longer have Rebbe. The Friedrich Rebbe is passing away. And they didn't refer to the Friedrich Rebbe with much derech eretz at all, kindalach. They used some very not derech eretz language. However, Reb Mendel Futerfas did not show any response. The officials looked at him and said, I see you're not as big a Chassid as the other man we told, Moshe Vyshetsky. When we were telling him, he fainted on the spot. He is right away gechalished. He fainted right away. But you stand there like cold-hearted statue. You don't even move. Reb Mendel didn't respond to them. Not because he was not as great as a chassid as Reb Moshe, but Reb Mendel said he was already able to sense, he was already able to feel earlier that something happened to the Chassidishe Rebbe. So that this news didn't come as a shock to him. The iskashrus that Reb Mendel had to the Chassidishe Rebbe was when that something happened to the Chassidishe Rebbe, he felt it. He didn't know what happened, but he felt it. Besides, Reb Mendel said, I knew that our Rebbe will become the new Rebbe and Lubavitch will be just fine. And sure enough, as we see today, that indeed is the case. Reb Mendel had such Mesiras Nefesh. One time, Reb Mendel was extremely, extremely hungry. Now, of course, this happened more than one time. Like we discussed, Reb Mendel said that not having kosher food won't be a problem because he's not going to eat. But he was very, very hungry. And on top of that, a delicacy arrived in the camp. What was this delicacy? What was this treat? It was a big, big barrel of pickled fish. Maybe it was pickled herring. Basically, it was you ever saw those like big wooden barrels that you make wine in or mashke? So one of those types of barrels, but full of fish that was sitting in a juice, either salt water or pickle juice or some type of juice with spices to give the fish a flavor. The Mendel goes over to the barrel, looks at the fish. Baruch Hashem, the fish still has its skin on, fins and scales. Oh, Baruch Hashem, it's a kosher fish. I have something to eat. Baruch Hashem. Mendel was about to take a fish, put it aside that he can eat later. But then he realized, the barrels appeared to be smeared with some sort of fat. I don't know what kind of fat it is. Some kind of like grease. I don't know if it's kosher. I don't know if it's oil. I don't know if it's chas v'shalom fat of a non-kosher animal. So Reb Mendel was thinking, does the fish still stay kosher even if they were in a place where the fat smeared on the barrel was not kosher? Maybe. Maybe it's batal b'shishim. Maybe not. And even if they're not kosher fats, Mendel's life was in danger. Mendel was in danger of passing away from hunger. And if somebody chas v'shalom starves themselves to death, Chazal tell us that ein lehem chelik le'olam haba. If a person takes his own life, what should he do? Should he eat the fish? Should he not eat the fish? You know, sometimes, Kidalach, you're very, very hungry. You want to eat something. But then on top of that, somebody brings in a nice, hot, steamy, fresh pizza. So your hunger just went 8 times as much. You know, it's like you're fasting on Tisha B'Av and your little siblings are busy eating, a nice hot pizza that smells so good that makes you even more hungry. So in this case, Reb Mendel Futerfas was Sai hungry, and Sai he found something kosher and a delicacy for people that like this kind of stuff. So what should he do? Should he eat it? Should he not eat it? Finally, Reb Mendel says, I remember the story of the Alter Rebbe. When the Alter Rebbe was arrested, and the Alter Rebbe was in jail during the story of Yutas Kislev. Did the Alter Rebbe eat the food in jail? Oh no. So what did the soldiers do? They tried holding the Alter Rebbe down and force-feeding him. The Alter Rebbe clenched his teeth, and the Alter Rebbe said, I will not eat. So they tried to convince the Alter Rebbe to eat. They said, Rabbi, doesn't it say in your Torah that if you're not going to be eating the food, then you will be dying? And you cannot allow yourself to die. That is against the Jewish law. You will not have a shir in the world to come. You will lose your chelik in Olam Haba. So the Alter Rebbe said, I will not eat treifa food, even if it means that I'm not going to have a chelik in Olam Haba. Even if I lose my Olam Haba, I'm not going to eat something that's not kosher. Now we know the rest of the story. Eventually, they ended up getting kosher essen from Reb Mordechai Lepler, who lived in Peterburg. Reb Mendel Futerfas says, who am I? I'm not on the level of the Alter Rebbe. I'm a chitzen. I'm someone that I do things on the outside. I pretend to be someone that I'm not. I act so holy. I act like a big chassid, but I know I'm not really such a big chassid. So if I'm a chitzen, I'm not like the Alter Rebbe, maybe I can eat it. But then Reb Mendel Futerfas said, no, so what, I'm a chitzen? Does that mean that I should eat it? Taka, I'm not on the level of the Alter Rebbe. Reb Mendel Futerfas said, you know what? I'm not going to eat it. I'm not going to eat the fish, no matter how hungry I am. I'm not going to eat it. And Reb Mendel Futerfas survived to tell the story. That wasn't the only time, Kinderlach, that Reb Mendel Futerfas was faced with death. Every night, at around midnight, there was a big bang on the doors of the cells. A prisoner could get a knock on his door, and his name would be called out. When his name was called in the middle of the night, they all knew what that meant. The other prisoners would say to each other, tomorrow we have one less person playing cards with us. Because whoever was called out in the middle of the night usually did not return. Reb Mendel said there were 2 types of ways a person could respond to this. As soon as a person heard that they would be taken out that night, which means that their life would end within a very short period of time, they would right away get either very careless, so to say. They would say, take me, do whatever you want with me, kill me, do whatever you want, I don't care. Or they would start to scream and cry and yell, "Oh, no, don't take me, what's going to be?" So when that would happen, the guards, they would take this ball that had a hole in it and stuff the ball in the prisoner's mouth, enough that he could breathe, but that he can't scream. Then they would drag him out to be shot. But Reb Mendel says, whenever these knocks came on the doors at night, I never got scared. First of all, I had a bracha from the Rebbe Rashab that I'm going to have a long life. So I knew they're not going to kill me here. And second of all, I knew that Russians were keeping me alive because they figured that if they torture me enough, and I'm hungry enough, and I'm tired and overworked enough, eventually I'm going to snitch on the other Chassidim, the other Lubavitchers that are doing the secret work with Mesiras Nefesh. But I never did that. Where did I have the koyach to do this? The koyach came not from me, but from being mekusher to the Rabbeim. You know, when I was mekusher to Rabbeim, when I learned Chassidis, we say on Yutas Kislev about Chassidis is Or v'chayis nafsheinu. It's the warmth and the chayis of our life. Talking about being warm, Reb Mendel Futerfas shared that during his stay in Siberia, he once, for whatever reason, stayed at the home of a local man. Maybe he had to work in his farm, maybe he had to help him clean the house, whatever job they gave Reb Mendel there. And this man, he was a Zaidi. He was a babushka is a bubby. I don't know how to say a Zaidi in Russian. Whatever he was. And he was raising his little Enikol, his granddaughter. We're going to call her Natasha. One afternoon, Natasha left the house to go for a walk. An hour goes by. 2 hours go by. 2.5 hours go by. And Natasha did not return home. Natasha's a goyish kid. It's not like KGB arrested her. It's not like she was caught going to secret cheder. And Natasha's grandfather gets very nervous. It's cold. It's Siberia. It's getting dark. Soon the sun will set, and the nights in Siberia are especially freezing. The conditions are very dangerous, the weather conditions. Her grandfather goes out to try to find her. He's screaming in the streets, Natasha! Natasha! Do you hear me? Please come home! Screaming her name. But no response. Suddenly, the dog, the family had a pet dog, came home and he starts to bark. A few minutes later, the dog runs out into an open field behind the house. After being in the field for a few minutes, the dog comes running back home, barking extremely loud. This happened a few times. The dog would run into the field, come back to the house and bark, run into the field, back to the house and bark, back and forth, 7, 8 times. Finally, the grandfather realized, perhaps I should be following the dog. Maybe the dog was finding Natasha. Maybe Natasha's stuck somewhere and she needing my help to come home. Wait, doggy, I follow you. Grandfather put on his coat, his big Russian boots, his furry Russian hat, and headed off after the dog into the field. Through the deep snow, the dog led him to his granddaughter's unconscious body. Natasha must have gotten so cold that she froze, passed out, and fell into the field. With each trip, the dog was running back and forth from Natasha to the house. He would lay over her, warming her with his fur, saving her, keeping her alive. Eventually, the grandfather, probably with the help of Reb Mendel, picked up Natasha, brought her back to the house, laid her down next to the fireplace, warmed her bones, and eventually brought her back to consciousness so that she will live. After the whole episode, Reb Mendel said he learned a very powerful lesson. He says, we as Yidden, we're always in danger of freezing. Freezing beruchnius. What does it mean to freeze beruchnius? Amalek is kaltkeit. What's kaltkeit? Coldness. Means apathy. Nah, I don't care. Whatever. Nah, not interested. When a person has a koch, when a person has an excitement, when a person has an interest, even if his interest is not in the right thing, but at least he's alive, at least they're living, at least the interest, the koch could be challenged into something else. That's the whole avodah we learned in Bas Lagani, to mahabech the shtus, the shtus the kedusha, to turn over the whole koch, the excitement of Eilam Haza, of the Yetzer Hara, and channel it to serve the Eibishter. But if a person doesn't care, whatever, I don't care, if they're cold, if they're apathetic, that's worse than having a koch in the wrong place. That's called freezing. And like it says in Hayem Yem, I believe, zwischen kalt und kvire is gor adina mechitze. From the story of the dog and the girl, Reb Mendel Futerfas says, I learned that when I feel a little chill, I have to seek out warmth from those around me. This is together with the learning Chassidis and learning Torah and taking these ideas of Torah and Chassidis and applying it al livad in Afshei. When I think about the Gemara and I think about the Fabrengens, that kindles a fire within me, that gives me a chayis, that gives me a warmth. So instead of saying, do whatever you want, I don't care, I'm not interested. No. That's when we stop having a warmth, that's when the Yetzer Hara gets to you. Gotta have a chayis. Gotta have a warmth. How do we have warmth? How do we have a chayis? How do we stay alive? From learning Torah, from learning Chassidis, by participating in a Chassidishe Fabrengen. That's where the warmth is. That's where the life is.